Welcome back, YouTube. Today I'm going to take you step by step through another one of my recent training sessions. This is a follow-up workout to the last training session that I posted up here on YouTube, which I'll leave a link up here in the corner of the video and down in the description box below, so you can go check that out as well. That workout was at the start of the week, and I trained the same body parts that I'm going to show you today in this workout. So I trained glutes, hamstrings, shoulders, and chest in both of these sessions. However, as you'll see in this video compared to the last video, the body part priority, the exercises, and the techniques that I used are very different to what I did earlier in the week. So in this video, I'll take you through each exercise and I'll give you an overview on some of my thoughts behind program design and why I choose the exercises that I did, along with some extra discussions around training splits as a whole to help you with making more informed decisions around maybe making up your own training plan long term. Now, this will be a slightly nerdier video than some of my typical content. So again, this might not be something that you're totally interested in or maybe even understand completely. But at the very least, I hope you find it interesting, and like the last session that I posted, I hope that you can use it to at least keep you company on the toilet or in the background when you're cooking your next meal. I'm going to drop some timestamps into the pinned comment section below, and I'll also section out this progress bar so you can jump backwards and forwards as much as you like to any of the relevant sections of the workout. And as always, if you have any questions on anything that I mention in here, please do drop me a comment below. Now, while you're at it, please do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Not only does that help you keep up to date with everything that I share on here, it also helps support the growth of this channel, which means that I can continue to make free content just like this for you guys. All right, so without any further ado, let's get stuck into the workouts. I started out with chest with a low incline dumbbell press. I worked up to 3 heavy sets of between 6 to 8 reps. So whenever I use rep ranges like this, I normally start out at the top end of the rep range. So in this case, it's 8 reps, and I do as much weight as I can handle comfortably there. Then on the next couple of sets, if I feel comfortable with it, I bump the weight up heavier and I drop my reps down to 7 or 6 as my rep goal. Once I can comfortably hit 8 reps on that heavier weight, it's now time for me to progress things further, which I did over the last 12 weeks on that program. Now, as I've mentioned, and if you've already watched the first video in this series, you'll know this is the second time that I'm training chest for the week. However, in the first workout, I did chest work after my lower body work, whereas in this workout, I'm doing my chest work first. So a very simple rule to keep in mind is that whatever you do first in a workout is going to typically receive better stimulation as you're fresher and you're able to tolerate more volume and intensity earlier on in the workout. So if we kept the exact same order of body parts through both workouts, there could be some imbalances in the amount of stress that you place upon your body over time. Now, this could very well be a good thing if you have a certain body part goal. For example, if you're a woman who doesn't really want to do as much upper body work, but you still want to do some, you could simply keep all of your upper body work to the end of your workouts so it's lower priority. That way you can still provide your body with some stimulus that's important for strength, muscle building, and overall joint health, but it lets you prioritize what you want more, which in this case is the lower body. But for me personally, in this series, I programmed this workout with relative balance in mind, as it formed part of the daily workout series that I programmed for my app and website Scan by Room method. Now that is where I post up not only my current training split, but several more workouts and programs that have all been deconstructed for you to follow, along with extra educational materials and tutorials covering absolutely everything that you need to be able to work out more effectively for your goals. You'll find all the workouts from this half body split and all the sessions from my previous full body training split in there, so you can see how it all fits together. I'll leave a link up here in the corner and down in the description box below for a no obligation free trial for you to join up and get access to everything on both the apps available on both Android and Apple devices and on the desktop website. It's all free to try out, and if you don't like it, you can always just cancel before the trial ends. So go check it out. Anyway, back on track. After the incline presses, I moved on to a superset of super slow negative only ring dips, superset with costal cable chest presses. It's a big tongue twister there. First of all, I'm using the rings as a way to challenge my balance and my nervous system's ability to coordinate and stabilize my body. The last phase I did prior to this was a full body routine that was extremely focused on building as much muscle and strength as possible. And as a result, I was choosing more stable exercises and in some cases, limited ranges of motion, as that would allow for better overall output for muscle and strength building stimulation. However, as good as it may be for those goals, there are always going to be drawbacks and opportunity costs to things like coordination. And this is just one of the many ways that I can account for that. The slow negatives here aren't just a way to create an extra overload stimulus for strength or size gains, but they also have a direct impact on the connective tissues through my shoulders and can improve the overall pliability, stiffness, and integrity of my joints. However, you could also make the argument that due to the instability of the exercise, it's not safe or ideal to be pushing the ring dips too close towards the failure points or with much volume whatsoever, as it's more of a dangerous exercise due to the position that it puts your body into. So I back them up with the cable presses as a simple way to mimic a very similar motion to the dips, but in a manner that is much safer and easier for me to push towards failure points for muscle building. So the setup that I use on the cable presses is an absolute game changer. What you'll typically find on this movement is you really struggle to get any appreciable weight that will challenge your muscles before you start to lose balance. You'll also find that in order to get set up in position without starting up on the bench like I do, you have to really reach back awkwardly and try to wrench the handles down into position, which is extremely difficult to do with any real working weight. Now, a lot of people may look at these sort of setups that I use and think it's overkill or overcomplicated, but I do believe it's quite important. While I do believe that there is a lot that's being done in the gym that's more for social media clicks and novelty than actual logical reasoning, variations like this do serve an important purpose to help solve a lot of the typical problems that we tend to encounter with training and trying to optimize things as much as possible, in this case with things like stability. Now, the more advanced you get, the more this stuff becomes more and more important. But I'd also argue that for beginners, the more that you can make good decisions like this with exercise selection earlier on, the more progress you're going to be able to make right off the start. So after this, I went on to some rear delt rows and dumbbell Y raises, and I finished off with some biceps work. Now, I've already done a lot of talking about all of these specific movements in my best exercise series, so I'm actually going to skip over deconstructing these as much here, and I'll leave some links to the relevant videos up here in the corner again, and in the description box below, so you can get a complete breakdown in those videos on why those exercises are such good movements for your side delt, your rear delt, and your biceps. So instead of boring you with repeating that content, I want to talk a little bit more about the principles behind programming a half-body workout, who it's appropriate for, and some of the considerations you should take when setting it up or following it for yourself. So whether you want to just get the program and follow it exactly as is, or you want to substitute in other exercises or modify the split slightly, this will help guide you through that decision-making process. For beginners and those who are just getting back into training after a period of time away from training, I think a higher frequency training split like full body or half body is really useful, as it allows you more opportunities to practice the skill of training your body and coordinating all the movements that it needs. It has a slight edge over full body training as you're able to work in a bit more volume and exercise variety for each body part, since instead of trying to condense the entire body into one session, you're only really trying to group half of your body parts into one session following a half body split. This is really important from a conditioning standpoint and building up your body or the particular muscle group's ability to handle a lot of work or volume in a session, which long term is going to be a big factor for building more muscle and more strength. One thing I absolutely love to do with people is actually going alternate weeks, going between a full body split on week 1 and then switching over to a half body split for week 2 and then going back to full body for week 3, then half body for week 4 and continuing on this alternating schedule. For someone who's quite new to training or just getting back into things, it allows you to strike a really good balance of not being as caught up in the numbers whilst getting used to training, and instead focuses on the frequency to build up the skill component of lifting again, whilst also giving you the opportunity to receive a higher volume stimulus every other week to push those endurance boundaries. So in a nutshell, half body gives you a high frequency stimulus similar to full body, but it also allows you to use more volume and more exercises, which allows you to hit the body from more angles for growth, as well as adding in more variations that may serve other benefits, like I did with the ring dips in this workout, for example. But the next question is, how does this half body split differ from something that is also technically a half body training split, which is the upper lower training split? Say instead of combining both upper and lower body parts together like I've done here, what if we were to do upper body on day 1, then lower body on day 2, then upper body again on day 3, and lower body again on day 4? It is still technically a half body training split. The only difference really being in how we separate and organize the body into different halves. Now, this might sound like semantics and a little bit of overthinking, but it's actually an important and very interesting point. The stimulus placed upon your muscles and your body is different when you spend an entire session hammering away at, say, the lower body only, as opposed to spending half the session on lower body and half on upper body, even if the sets, reps, and overall difficulty of exercises across the week was quite similar. You could make the argument that doing it as a combined half-body split creates more of what's called a systemic demand, which is a fancy way of saying it's making your heart work harder to pump blood around, which may have more benefits on overall endurance and conditioning. On the other hand, an upper-lower type training split focuses the attention more on that one region, which is more locally stressful, creating more stress, damage, and potentially more muscle building stimulus for that one region. It also allows you to add in even more exercises and angles into your training for that specific body part, allowing you to apply even more stress to that region. Although there's going to be a little bit less frequency there compared to a more traditional half body splits like I'm talking about here. Look, there really isn't a right or wrong with this. It really just comes down to how you justify and contextualize whatever it is that you do. The most important thing to understand is that there isn't really a best split that you should be following. But instead, you should have a basic understanding on what your current goal is or what the current problem that needs solving is, and then use your best judgment to choose the best program and training split for that. For example, in terms of how I set out structuring this specific training split, it was wanting to find a balance between the more aggressive and intense full body muscle and strength building programming from the last phase I've done, and not wanting to go too high in volume that may start to accrue a lot of overuse injuries by doing, say, upper lower. And that's why you see me doing things as well, like snatch grip deadlifts and at the end of the workouts. It's also why I'm doing them as a superset with seated leg curls. Because all of these things combined, the snatch grip and the supersets, it limits the overall amount of weight that I end up using on the exercise and the overall recovery demands, while still giving me a very strong muscle building stimulus. Alright, so there you go guys. This is a complete rundown on this half body session. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something useful from it. A big thank you to all of you for sticking around all the way through to the end of the video to help skew that YouTube algorithm in my favor. And if you do have any questions, drop them in the comments section below, and I'll see you all next time.